Well, I saw two stories today that led me to a strange and likely conclusion. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott, and this is your right angle for the week of whatever week it is. I want to say the 10th of December, but I could be off by a decade or two. So here's the news. Looks like Nancy Pelosi has determined that 2 articles of impeachment will be filed against Donald Trump. And then I also read a story that says, as this goat rodeo continues, Donald Trump's numbers continue to surge and pull away from the Democratic candidates. So first of all, just so you see some of these numbers, here's some latest polls from 3 key battleground states. Here's Michigan. You can see that the good guys are ahead there. And here's one from Wisconsin. And here's one from Pennsylvania, which should all be blue, but they're not, and they're getting redder. And so this was the strange conclusion that I drew from it. I believe that these impeachment proceedings are, in fact, a concession that they've lost the 2020 election. I don't see any other explanation for it other than to say we're just going to throw Hail Mary so we can get 1 first down so we can celebrate something in this miserable, god-awful game before we get whipped 77-0. Steve, here's my reasoning on this. There was never, unless monumental evidence came out, and there wasn't any, excuse me, there was never a chance that Donald Trump would be removed from office, ever. Everybody knew it, that in order for Donald Trump to be removed from office rather than just impeached, they had to have a significant majority of Republicans, significant number of them ready to vote for it. It was never going to happen. And so you have to ask yourself, why are they doing this? And then as it became more and more clear that the more of it they did, the lower their numbers got and the higher Trump's numbers got. I can't think of any other explanation than to say, we're going to lose that one anyway. Let's at least stick a knife in the guy because we're 4-year-olds, and that'll be like smashing our trophy before we get, sent into the room for poor sportsmanship.
A reader at Instant Pun, a commenter, reminded me of something today that I'd forgotten all about, what sore losers the Democrats are and how vindictive they are. When they lost control of the House for the first time in 40-plus years in 1994, Newt Gingrich became their first Republican speaker in 40-plus years, the Democrats filed more than 2,000 bogus ethics charges against him just to take up his time, to hobble him as speaker and all the rest. And they finally found 2 tiny things that stuck, and that removed him from the speakership. And I think the only reasons those stuck is because he tried to take Clinton down in that impeachment and failed. I'm going to disagree with your notion that Trump would never be removed from office. I disagree with that. I think Republicans are principled enough that had there actually been a crime, that Republicans, just like Barry Goldwater did in 1974 when he went to Nixon.
Since there was nothing there other than this allegation.
Well, exactly. In 1970, with Nixon's impeachment, we knew there was a crime. There was a break-in, and in the investigation of the break-in, we uncovered a White House cover-up. These were criminal acts. In 1998, the Clinton impeachment, we had him on videotape in a bald-faced lie under oath, and you can't do that. That is definitely a high crime or a misdemeanor. In Clinton's case, it did not rise. It rose to the level of impeachment, but it did not rise to the level of removal from office, and I thought that was fair all the way around. In Trump's case, there's no crime. There's an investigation trying to find something that they hope will stick, and they caught Donald Trump exercising executive authority in the conduct of foreign policy, which they're trying to gin up as a high crime or misdemeanor. And it just isn't. The whole reason we hand out foreign aid is so we can twist some arms and get our way. Let's be perfectly frank. That's why there's foreign aid. Some of it's humanitarian, sure, but when you're dealing with a country like Ukraine, come on. This is why we hand out the big bucks. Anyway, that aside, the Democrats are playing a very dangerous game here, and I don't mean against Donald Trump. I'm talking about their ownership of the House of Representatives. It's the one thing they got left in Washington. The Supreme Court is 5-4, sometimes 6-3, and if Trump gets reelected, and it seems like he will, that could become even more lopsided. They don't have any chance of taking the Senate in the next 2 or 3 election cycles, I don't think. The White House, of course, has been Trump's for 3 years, and it looks like it's going to be Trump's for 4 more after next year. The House is all they've got. And by pushing this impeachment, they are turning off the very voters who gave them the majority in the 2018 election. Because you're not just seeing this in places like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan. You're seeing it in the heartland, which is where they won so many of these races that gave them the majority again. And voters in those districts are saying, what the hell are you doing? This isn't why we sent you to Washington. So I almost feel bad for the Democrats in a way, because the crazy wing of their party puts the crazy wing of the Republican Party to shame. I mean, these people are just out and out social communist nutcases that don't belong anywhere near a free election in a free country, in a federal republic. They just don't. They're awful statist people. They're just not very American. On the other hand, Democratic politicians, especially at the national level, tend to be very sharp political operators. They know exactly the blind alley that the crazy wing of their party is forcing them into, but they can't risk alienating too many of their crazies.
So why are they doing it?
Because
they know
have
it's
to.
so destructive. Why? Because they have to.
Because they have to. And that's why I almost feel bad for them. If they weren't pushing such god-awful policies, I actually would feel bad for them. But they are, so I don't.
Scott, can you make any sense out of this other than a temper tantrum? I know look, I understand the theory. The theory is that if the American people only knew about Donald Trump what we know about Donald Trump, then certainly they'd abandon him en masse and so on and so on and so on. But they can read poll numbers just like everybody else. They know that they're not going to get the guy removed from office. They know that their charges are flimsy. And so why are they continuing to do this?
Actually, I do know the reason for this, and it's this. This is opposition research at public expense that you don't have to report on your campaign finance forms. So you get to conduct all your opposition research out in the wide open. You can sit there on your tails all day, avoiding doing actual work. Have your staffer attorneys ask questions to phony witnesses, and you can do that all on the taxpayer's dime in a way that generates some stuff, if not to defeat Donald Trump, at least to tie to those local candidates. So, they will find ways to link up the worst things that they can pull out of these hearings and associate them with local congressional races and Senate races in the states. That's the only thing that makes a whole lot of sense. The other thing, and Bill, we've got to give this theory its due. It's quite possible that they just believe that the president has committed impeachable offenses, high crimes and misdemeanors, and needs to be removed from office. And therefore,
you're saying this is an act of integrity.
This is in their own consciences. They cannot not impeach the president. They have to pursue this avenue because to do otherwise would be a dereliction of duty on their part and a moral breach that they just couldn't live with themselves.
Based on Scott Ott's tremendous recommendation over the course of many weeks, I've been reading the biography of U.S. Grant. And like most people who know the basics of American history, I know that the first sitting president to have impeachment proceedings brought against him was Andrew Johnson. And that's about all I knew. When you read what Andrew Johnson actually did, when you read the scale of what this man did to undermine the will of the people, undermine the will of the Congress, undermine the will of it is almost unimaginable when you look at the crimes of Andrew Johnson and you see what real grounds for impeachment look like. What real grounds for impeachment look like. When you pass the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment and you've still got a president who is basically saying to Southern slave owners, no, the country's all yours and don't listen to these N-words, running around because they're all just a bunch of defective brutes and so on. You can see by looking at Andrew Johnson's case what an impeachable offense actually is, what is actually worthy of bringing down the president, and it still didn't happen by one vote. Still didn't happen. So I'm not impressed with this whole thing like we have an honor-bound duty to do this. To me, I can't put any other explanation on it other than to say it is a temper tantrum that is being held by 4-year-olds who are determined that they're going to hurt this guy, even if this is, let me just summarize. This is the textbook example of cutting off your own nose to spite your face, to do something that continually decrease your chances of winning an election, continually increasing the chances of another 4 years for this guy who you hate so much, but you cannot break away from it because you are so emotionally infantile that you've just got to lash out and damn the consequences. So enjoy your few moments here now, and they're going to send those things there, and there'll be that little asterisk next to Donald Trump's name, but that's not going to mean much in the future anyway, because now, because of this, there's going to be an asterisk next to everybody's name. Thanks to this strategy of yours, thanks to this policy of yours, it's going to be something that's just routinely done, just like, I don't know, just like a recount or something. Okay, we lost? Okay, well, how soon can we start the impeachment proceedings? It's going to happen because like with the nuclear option, they want a cheap, fast win over protecting the rules that have governed this country. So enjoy yourself now, or as they say in one of my favorite movies, laugh while you can, monkey boy, because every single day that this thing continues, more and more moderates become Trump supporters, and Trump supporters are on fire in a way that I have never seen and certainly did not see in 2018. You got a big, big surprise coming your way, Democrats, except that I don't think it's a surprise. I think you know it's coming. I think you're just doing this to feel better, like everything else you do, to feel better. Do some damage, but you feel better. Okay, got it. That'll do it for this edition of Right Angle, brought to you by the members at BillWhittle.com. A few people make this possible for everybody, and if you're not one of those people, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should go sit in a corner and think about what you've done. For Bill Whittle, Scott Ott, and Steve Green, I'm Bill Whittle, and we'll see you next time on Right Angle.